How does someone become an enemy if they stand for peace? Over 58,000 Americans lost their lives in the Vietnam War. The United States first sent troops into combat in 1965 to support the South Vietnamese government as they fought for control of the country against the North Vietnamese communist regime. Historians estimate more than 1 million North and South Vietnamese were killed in combat, as well as over 300,000 people in neighboring Laos and Cambodia. And as is always the case in war, civilians paid the ultimate price as well. Mothers, children, teenagers, babies, and grandparents. Over 400,000 are estimated to have been killed. Confederate General Stonewall Jackson of the American Civil War said, "It is painful enough to discover with what unconcern they speak of war and threaten it. They do not know its horrors. I have seen enough of it to make me look upon it as the sum of all evils." Entering a war is never an easy decision, or at least it shouldn't be. For senior policymakers, they are sending young men and women into battle to kill or be killed, and innocents are bound to be caught in the crossfire. Thich Nhat Hanh, a Buddhist monk in Vietnam, knew this in 1960. Largely considered one of the most peaceful religions, Buddhism adamantly opposes violence, and Thich Nhat Hanh made that clear at the onset of the war. Thich Nhat Hanh was a revered teacher and leader in the Buddhist community in Vietnam, giving him a compelling influence over the people. He encouraged engaged Buddhism, where the people applied their teachings in society, which worried military commanders that his influence might hinder their ability to fight the war. Thich Nhat Hanh refused to take a side. His organization published the most popular magazine in the country, proclaiming nonviolence and seeking an end to the war. When Thich Nhat Hanh traveled to the United States in 1966 to lobby for a cessation of bombing by the US military, the governmental authorities in Vietnam shocked him as he was to return home. Neither the North nor the South would allow him back into the country. Because of his staunch stance against the war and his influence over much of the populace, they had exiled him from his homeland. The news was heartbreaking. To be barred from his own home, to be separated from his friends, family, and colleagues, to be unable to return to the school he had established. Exiled. But Thich Nhat Hanh did not let this setback deter him from his core value of nonviolence. He continued his teachings in other countries, established new Buddhist schools in the United States and France, and led official peace delegations seeking an end to the war. But even after the Vietnam War ended years later, the government still did not allow Thich Nhat Hanh to return from exile. It wasn't until 2005, 39 years after he left Vietnam to seek peace, that he finally was able to return to his homeland at the age of 79. He said, "It's a wonderful thing to come home, to be mindful of every step you make. You are touching the soil of Vietnam." Was Thich Nhat Hanh right? Would it have been best for the opposing sides to negotiate, to give up some of their demands, and to agree to a ceasefire? It is so difficult for leaders to step back once they have plunged forward into war. They risk appearing defeated, weak, or cowardly. Who knows how history would have changed for Vietnam, but had the world listened to Thich Nhat Hanh, hundreds of thousands of children and adult non-combatants would not have lost their lives in such a violent manner. Though they tried to diminish his influence, Thich Nhat Hanh became one of the most admired peace activists in history. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize, saying he knew of no one more worthy than this gentle monk from Vietnam. The message of nonviolence Thich Nhat Hanh planted decades ago continues to grow and blossom nearly 60 years after his exile. 3 Minute Virtue posts a new video every Monday morning. Click subscribe to easily find more 3MV videos in the future. Thich Nhat Hanh said, "We often think of peace as the absence of war, that if powerful countries would reduce their weapon arsenals, we could have peace. But if we look deeply into the weapons, we see our own minds, our own prejudices, fears, and ignorance. To work for peace is to uproot war from ourselves and from the hearts of men and women."